Sweet, sweet September. It always brings with it such a change of pace. That tinge of cold in the morning air, but the hot days. Everyone's getting back to school. The shadows are different. The plants are just a little bit different past their summer prime. It is such a glorious time to be on the farm. Even though we've been preserving all summer long, September really commences a parade of work out in the gardens. This is the time of year where we gather more than any other time, and we start to fill the larder. Underneath our cottage kitchen is a 900-foot root cellar that was built over 100 years ago. And in that 100 years, I can only think of the amount of food it has stored for families before us. But for our family, this time of year, we're filling the larder with cabbage heads from the market garden, big bins of carrots and beets and parsnips. We're gathering up all the herbs from the gardens, wrapping them up, and storing them down there for winter soups and roasts. The larder holds many things. Many of our dried meat pieces hang from the rafters, jars of jams and jellies. It is such a wonderful space to fill up. And the reward of gathering through the gardens, picking this and that, putting it up, knowing that you'll see it in a few months' time when there's snow on the ground. And there's something quite magical about that. The very first food that I ever preserved was a corn and tomato chowder. This was long back before the days of the Elliott homestead. And I remember getting into that soup in February and almost crying at the taste of a summer tomato. At a time when we weren't eating anything fresh, it was such a welcome treat. And I try to remember that now as the workload gets heavy and burdensome and hot, and I'm ready to tuck in for fall, but the garden's not quite ready to give up yet. And so we gather the parsley and the sage, the thyme, the bay, and the rosemary. And we bundle them up, knowing we shall meet again in just a few months. When I was growing up, my grandfather had a root cellar, and I used to be terrified to go down there. But the smell of it, the dirt, it makes me so nostalgic. Every time I walk down to ours, I'm reminded of his. When he would send me down for a can of pears, he would store all his flower bulbs down there through the wintertime. So I've taken a note from his book and also store my dahlias down here in the cool months. But for now, the work is full of lining up jars and filling up baskets. A lot of our vegetables, like cauliflower and green beans and cabbages, are lacto-fermented and stored in our cold storage down here. Our walk-in refrigerator is home to many things like cheeses and butters, milk, and a bunch of vegetables. Because onions like to be kept dry, they are not stored in the fridge, but just stored in baskets on the ground of the root cellar. Each year, we grow an entire bed in our market garden, one of purple onions and one of white onions. Both are varieties designed to store well into the winter months. So after growing in the market garden, the tops fall over, the onions are ready, and they're pulled out and topped. Then they're laid to dry in the shade for a few days where they can develop a thicker skin that's ready for storage. This helps to keep the onions from rotting away. It's tough this time of year. Physically, mentally, it is a push to land all of this stuff in the larder. It's about to be the fullest it will be all year. Once the cabbages make their way in, there's still a couple beds to go. And once the rest of the parsnips get pulled, this is going to be brimming with food for the winter. I often joke that I spend my summers creating the very best grocery store in the world right beneath my kitchen. Tired as we are, we'll march on. We'll march on until the snow flies and nature tells me now it is time to be finished.